Hi, my name is Michael Arroyo. I'm one of the lead developers for the BluSapphire cybersecurity platform. I'm also the creator and lead developer for BluGenie. BluGenie is a PowerShell-driven framework for threat hunting, data analysis, and remote administration. Let's check out some of the functions. Okay, so in this session, we're going to discuss the several ways to run BluGenie. So BluGenie is a console application. It can run in the Windows Explorer, and it can run in the command console. So the first process we're going to run is BluGenie.exe right from the File Explorer. So you can see BluGenie is loading. The screen is widened so the text will fit. That's by default. I'll show you an option to actually disable that later. But for now, this is what we have. You can see if you scroll up slightly that it took a little under 3 seconds to load. So the full start, the full stop, and then you're left at the hosting version, which is 5.1. So that's your posh version. That's what it's using underneath. bgconlib, which is the library, the version of the library that it's using, and it also leaves that as the prompt for BluGenie. So now we're going to show the command console way, very similar, except now you just type in BluGenie. So here we're going to close this window, we're going to go into that directory, and we're actually just going to run BluGenie.exe. We'll center that screen. Again, the screen was widened for the full text, and you're left at the same screen. But now, again, you're in a command console. So if you typed in exit, you're left back at the command prompt. So another way to run BluGenie is also importing the module. So let's do that now. So here we're going to do PowerShell, and we're going to run the ISE. All right, now we're loaded in the ISE. If you actually type in get module, you can see that the default modules are loaded, but nothing else. Here we're actually going to go and we're going to load a new module. So import module, and we're going to actually look for the path itself. So in the BluGenie folder under the bin x64, we're going to go to tools. Here you're going to see another directory called BlueBin, and then modules. So there you're going to see the BluGenie module. And we're actually going to do a verbose on this so we can see it actually execute. So here we're going to import the module. It's doing its importing, and now if we do get module, you can actually see BluGenie's loaded, and also the version, which is the version or the lib that we talked about earlier. So let's jump back into the console. Okay, so before we run the console, I want to show the log folder. So the log folder, the log directory, is a subfolder where BluGenie resides called transcripts. So here, if you just do a dir, you'll see that there's a transcripts folder. We go to the transcripts folder, and right now there's nothing in it. We'll actually leave it open so we can browse that in a second. And then now if we run BluGenie.exe, you'll see it execute. It's launched, you're at the console, and if you actually open up that folder, you'll see that now there is a log file. We open that up, you can see the console version indicator. Here it has the start time, base name is BluGenie, the directories that it ran, transcripts folder, the transcripts file. So it picked up all that information in real time. We'll talk about the managed tools later, but these are all third-party tools that get copied to the remote machine for support. Here's some WSMan configuration. All this happens at load time. So it actually, as soon as it loads, it's checking on this data, and it's logging all that information to this file. We didn't send any command line data here. No parameters. It just ran. Available memory that it's utilizing for remote jobs is 512 megs of memory, and we'll discuss that a little later as well. So let's go back to the BluGenie console, and I want to show you debugging and verbose information. So we're going to exit this, clear screen, and now we're back. We'll minimize this folder. So I just mentioned BluGenie console. We have a verbose and a debug. So if you're ever looking for a little bit more information when you're running this, you want to see what modules fail to load, anything like that, and you're doing this obviously in the foreground in an interactive session. If you type in BluGenie and you do a /debug, the debug reference is now going to create a secondary log file. The secondary log file is PowerShell's transcript initialization. So it will execute or auto start that command and start logging everything, every action, every command, every execution to that log file. I'll show you what that log file looks like in a second. And we're also going to run verbose. So /parameter space /parameter. In this case, it's going to be debug and verbose. So this, we're going to see all of the modules loaded. Anything that's happening in the background that we normally don't see is going to now be in the console view. So we're going to hit enter. You're seeing that the items were loaded, the module was loaded, all of the information, all the aliases that are being built, all the referencing commands, all the functions that were being built are processed here. And then you'll see some of the other executions. So here we have debugging enabled. It's highlighted in red. You have a start task, so you can see that it's executing. We have just the console view was enabled. There is another view. We'll show you what the other option is. That other option is actually setting up a JSON job so that there is no console view and you can just auto run and execute the code itself. Here we're going through global variables, console size. Are we resetting the size false, or set res was equal to false, setting console size, yada yada yada. So it literally is doing everything. Building transcript log file, it's going through loading config, setting and loading WSMan configurations, detecting needed project files, creating master object, and setting up remote script blocks. And then we're left at the BluGenie console view. So real quick, we just sent two parameters to this session. So why don't we view those two items really quick. Here you can actually do a $ command line and you'll see what was sent. So there was no data to the command line, however there was parameters. So here we'll do a $parameters, and if you hit enter, you can see that debug and verbose were actually sent to, those were the two parameters that were executed. They were sent as the main command line. They were also removed, and so no data was left on that command line, which is why command line was empty. We're going to go exit back out and run a couple of different parameters at this point. Okay, so remember when we said that we just ran the debug and we had all of that data being sent to a transcript log. So if you go back into that folder, into transcripts, you'll see that the normal BluGenie transcript ID was processed, just like the first one we ran and we saw. But also at that same instance, same time frame, same UID, there was actually a debug.log. If we open that debug.log, you're actually going to see a little bit more information. So here you're actually going to see that the PowerShell transcript started, the start time, the username, run as user, so on and so forth. These were actually some of the command information that was happening behind the scenes. Here you see that verbose information that we normally see. We saw the start the start task, stop tasks, so on and so forth. We're actually left at any item that was sent to the console. We're actually now seeing. So you can see BluGenie command line was ran, BluGenie parameters was ran. That parameters gave us a return of debug and verbose, and then the exit command was ran, and then transcript was ended. So this, when you run /debug rather, it's going to process a lot more data. Any item that was executed, ran inside that console will now be generated in this log. So this is good for really verbose logging and debugging, but is not normally needed. But this also can be actioned in the JSON itself. So just calling the JSON and having the parameter debug equals true will actually enable this debug every time a JSON job runs. Again, that can be totally changed inside your JSON config or at the parameter level like you just saw us run. So we just ran debug and we just ran verbose. Another option is no banner. So you've noticed that we were running each time we ran BluGenie, we were getting the BluGenie lamp. If we don't want a banner, you can actually type in no banner. And this will just give you the headers, and then you're left at the console view. So it tells you the start time. It always tells you the start time. It always tells you the stop time on how long it took to load. If you're seeing that jump heavily, 5 seconds, 17 seconds, 30 seconds, obviously there's too many objects being loaded, and we have to find out why. So that's good for troubleshooting. Be able to tell how fast each action is taking to execute. You'll always get the welcome to BluGenie cybersecurity framework, and then the optional header of help. So in this case, we have no banner, and we're going to exit and go back to the clean console. So here, now we talked about debug, we talked about verbose, we talked about no banner. Now we want to talk about that JSON job. So in this instance, you can actually send predefined jobs, predefined tasks with all of your items, all the commands you want to send, all the computers you want to hit. You can actually send that information two different ways. One is through the console itself, or two, from the command line. So in this instance, we're going to call BluGenie.exe, and we're actually going to call the parameter JSON job with the equal sign. It's a single line, single string for this instance. So JSON job equals, and then your path. For our path, we have JSON packs in a subfolder. So here we're actually going to call JSON packs, and then underneath that, we're just going to call, you can see that there's a few different ones, demo cache, demo JSON. So here we're going to run that specific one called demo JSON. BluGenie loads. You can see that demo, in this instance, all logging is actually here. You can see the JSON job was a parameter that was set, that data was imported, and to view or verify that data, there's a few different options, but the primary one that we're going to talk about is a command called settings. So if you type in settings and hit enter, you'll see that there is a JSON human readable view of all of the parameters that were set in that JSON. You have your systems. These are your computers that are going to be actioned upon. The command that we were going to send was invoke bg yara. Items to scan, we were going to scan a folder called csource. And the rules, we were going to use, the first rule that we found was yara1.yar. So you can see that there was no parallel commands, there was no post commands, and these run in order. So commands runs first, parallel runs second, and it runs all of the commands listed in this collection, array, or list. It's going to action them all at the same time. If you have a beefy machine and you want to hit a machine fast, that's an option. And then you have your post commands, so things that you want to action right before the job is completed and you're done with your data management or your remote management. Here you can see there was not a range of IP addresses if you didn't have systems. How many threads per job, so you're going to have 50 computers per session that are going to run at one time. Debug, we did not enable debug this time. Job timeout, trapping information, verbose, different things that we talked about before. So no set res, these are options that can be ran at the parameter level as well, but we're actually running this from the JSON job. And then again, memory 512 and a couple of the other options. And we'll talk about more of what the JSON job is going to do, but I just wanted to go into how you could see it from the parameter level and how to execute that command. One of the other options is you can actually run this hidden. So if you were going to run BluGenie with a JSON job and you did not want it to show on the screen at all, you can actually run a hidden attrib and it would execute in a hidden window. So a window that's not in the foreground. And then another option is if we were going to run this command. So all command line parameters have a / in front of them. Anything that is left behind, for instance, this command run will actually execute any of the JSON information or any of the settings. So we just noticed that we had 4 computers that we're going to get executed against. We were sending a command to do a Yara rule management, and in this case we want to auto execute, so that's typing run, so any command left behind is executed. So from this JSON job to the JSON file would be removed from the command line, and then run would actually be executed at the end. Now you can add other parameters here. One of them, for instance, if you were troubleshooting a command and you did not want it to exit out of the console, you wanted to be left in for better error management, you wanted to view some things, you wanted to stay in the console, you can actually type in no exit. So no exit is very similar to PowerShell's no exit, and it will leave you after running a script. It will leave you in the interactive session view. So that's something to take note of. The other option I wanted to talk about is no set res. So if you noticed when we ran BluGenie, it automatically managed this console view, and it expanded the window to a non-normal size for the command prompt. You can actually run no set res to make sure that it does not change. It does not change that window size if you don't want it to. So in this instance, we're actually going to start another CMD. So the view, you can see the view is at the normal size. And in this instance, we're actually going to do BluGenie again, but here we're going to do a no set res. And with that, you're going to see that it will load BluGenie, but this console frame will not change. So now you notice that the that the text was wrapped. Prior to that, it was extended. So now we have text wrapping enabled, and the console view stays to whatever size that you wanted it to stay at. So with that said, this particular module was only going to talk about the several ways to run BluGenie. Come back to another module to see all of the other features that we have in store for BluGenie, and I hope to see you on the next one. Thank you.